The night was dense. The wind howled through the twisted trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and mystery. On the horizon, shadows danced under the pale moonlight, while muffled footsteps broke the silence of the early morning. The man walked alone, clutching a small sack of seeds. His eyes, piercing and dark, reflected the weight of something that seemed greater than himself. He knew what he was about to do. The story you're about to hear is not just about a sower, but about the destiny of each one of us. If you want to find out how this story unfolds, make sure you are subscribed to our channel. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe, and let's get into the video. But what happens when the seeds fall on infertile ground? Stay with me until the end so we can uncover this together. Before I continue telling you this parable, you need to understand the historical context in which it was told. Agriculture was the backbone of the economy, especially in Palestine, where most people lived in rural areas and depended on the land for survival. Farming was not just a common occupation, but a vital means of sustenance. Seeds played a central role in this context, since agriculture was the primary source of food, and the production of grains like wheat and barley was essential to the population's diet. The land was cultivated in a simple manner, using plows pulled by oxen or mules, and with techniques that were largely rudimentary compared to modern standards. Fields were often small, with the land divided into plots carefully worked to grow grains, vineyards, and olive trees. The soil varied greatly from region to region, with some areas being more fertile, while others were arid. Farming, therefore, required patience and perseverance, as well as a deep understanding of the seasons and climatic conditions. Grain seeds such as wheat and barley were essential for the survival of families, and sowing was one of the most important activities of the year. During the harvest season, families would gather to celebrate, and gratitude for the abundance of food was an important part of spiritual and community life. The relationship with the land was profound. Not only was it the source of physical sustenance, but it also carried spiritual significance, as the Bible often used the metaphor of fields and seeds to illustrate spiritual truths. Jesus used agriculture as a vivid metaphor to explain the kingdom of God because it was a tangible and understandable reality for the people of his time. The process of sowing seeds and waiting for the harvest was a well-known practice to everyone, from the wealthiest to the poorest. So, when he spoke about the sower scattering his seeds, people could easily visualize the scene, understanding that the final outcome depended on how the seed was received by the soil. This agricultural setting, where sowing and harvesting were familiar processes, provides a powerful backdrop for the parable. The simple act of planting and waiting for the harvest becomes a rich metaphor for the teaching about the kingdom of God and how people respond to the divine message in their lives. Did you already know about this cultural context? Or let me know in the comments if this was new information to you. Now, based on this historical background, let's continue our parable. With steady hands and watchful eyes, he took a handful of seeds and cast them into the wind. They drifted through the cold night air, but some were betrayed by fate and fell by the wayside, landing on soil hardened by time and the weight of countless footsteps. The silence was shattered by a strange sound, a sharp rustling that seemed to come from all directions. Suddenly, the sky stirred. Winged shadows emerged from the darkness, moving with an almost supernatural precision. Ravens with eyes gleaming like embers plummeted from the void, their claws tearing through the air as they dove upon the seeds. They never had a chance. Before they could even touch the ground, they were mercilessly devoured, sucked into the abyss of sharp beaks snapping shut around them. It was merely the natural cycle of life, or was it an omen? How many hear the words of truth, but before they can understand them, they are stolen away by invisible forces, entities lurking in the shadows, waiting for a single moment of carelessness to snatch away all hope. The sower moved forward, his silhouette dissolving into the gloom. With a precise motion, he cast more seeds upon the ground. Some fell among the rocks, where the soil was shallow, a trap disguised as a promise. At first, they sprouted quickly, their fragile shoots rising under the cold glow of the moonlight as if longing to touch the heavens. But the night would not last forever. With the rising sun came the trial. The burning star loomed in the sky like an unyielding judge, pouring fire upon the earth. The roots, too short to seek refuge in the depths, were exposed, defenseless. The dry ground offered no shelter. The once vibrant green turned pale, the stems withered, and one by one the plants collapsed, shriveling until nothing remained but ash and dust. And what of those who received the word with fervor, but lacked deep roots? Can they endure when trials come, relentless as the scorching sun? How many have taken their first steps on the journey, only to be consumed by the weight of suffering, crushed by persecution that never let them escape? The sower pressed on, his steady footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. With a precise movement, he scattered more seeds, which landed gently among the slumbering thorns. In the dim light, nothing seemed threatening. The field appeared calm, silent, almost welcoming. But time does not forgive. The days passed, and something sinister awakened in the soil. The fragile plants reached upward, seeking the light, but they were not alone. From the same earth that nourished them, twisting shadows began to emerge. The thorns grew without haste, coiling around the tender stems, wrapping them in a cruel embrace. At first, they seemed harmless, merely silent neighbors. But soon they tightened, dug deeper, strangled. Life was drained little by little. The leaves contorted, and what once promised fruit was lost in the darkness, consumed by the merciless grip of what never should have been there. And how many are choked by the worries of life, the treacherous deceit of riches, the insatiable desire that is never satisfied. How many have started with a pure heart, only to find themselves entangled in ravenous ambitions, lost in a labyrinth of illusions from which they can never escape. Alas, some seeds met a different fate. They fell upon good soil, deep, fertile, alive. A ground that did not reject, did not suffocate, did not fear. There the roots spread freely, sinking into the mystery of the dark earth, clinging to the sustenance that would give them strength. Time passed, and what was once just a handful of lonely seeds became an abundant harvest. 30, 60, 100 times what was sown. The wind swept through the golden fields, carrying with it a whisper, a truth for those who can still hear, but who is truly ready to receive and bear fruit. How many have ears to hear but remain deaf to the call? Now, look around you. Where is the seed fallen in your life? What kind of soil are you? Has your heart hardened like the trampled earth by the wayside? Are you rooted in shallow ground, ready to wither at the first sign of trial? Or have you been ensnared by thorns, suffocated by illusions and distractions? There is still time to understand, but for how long? The clock never stops, and unseen forces are already at work, seeking to steal what could transform your story. If this message made you reflect, share it with someone who needs to hear this parable. From this perspective, time is running out, life is short, and eternity is long.